All right. So today we do have a special guest. Just he's not just a martial artist. He's a journalist. He's a mission-driven dad on a quest to help families stay safe in an unpredictable world. Jason Brick is the founder of Safety Family on the Block, and he's here to drop some real talk on raising resilient kids, and then avoiding the danger and before it strikes. And this is very important for us so that we can be protectors of our family. So, Jason, without further mumbling, welcome, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me on today. It's a real pleasure to be on your show.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, sir. I know you're a dad, you're a martial artist, and you're a journalist. You have all these different hats, my friend. I don't know, where do we start?
Well, maybe let's just kind of start with how we ended up here. How'd I
Please.
get here?
Yes, please.
I was a competitive martial artist in my youth, in my 20s. Ended up working a little bit as a bodyguard, a little bit in bouncing. I ran a martial arts school for about 10 years. And then I adopted a son. And that son was 7 years old. And at that time, running a martial arts school, that's an evenings and weekends job. And I wasn't able to see my kid as much as I wanted to see my kid. And so I transitioned from that career to a career in freelance writing and journalism so I could be home with my kids. Because, when you're a freelance writer, your client doesn't care when you do the work as long as you do the work on time. So I could be there and volunteer in their schools, watch all the soccer games, see all the plays. And then sometimes I'd be up writing at 2 in the morning. But I
Hmm.
was being able to be the dad I wanted to be.
Okay.
And then around 2020, during the COVID, during the pandemic, I decided to combine those two fields, the safety and martial arts and the journalism, and start my show, Safest Family on the Block, where I interviewed experts on keeping our families safe. So it would be a police officer one week, and then a firefighter, then a child psychologist, then a nutritionist, and then a dog trainer. And
Oh,
through
yeah.
those experiences and interviews, where I kind of took my interview skills as a journalist and my lens as a martial artist and safety instructor, and that turned into the book Safest Family on the Block that came out this spring.
Okay. Amazing,
And
amazing. Yes.
and I go around and I do presentations at martial arts schools, libraries, churches, and stuff about the things I've learned in this journey, both doing the podcast and then testing it out on my own kids.
Right.
Uh,
So like somebody would expect maybe some, like they will probably think, was there something happened to you? Like, was there like a safety issue happened? Did you, did any of your kids get in trouble or something? What I mean, all that kind of questions
yeah.
will be popping up in a person hearing, about you for the first time.
And fortunately, I haven't been a victim of much crime. My house got
Hmm.
burgled once. There were a couple of attempted muggings when I was in my 20s, but
Right.
that was when I was in my 20s doing stupid things in stupid places. And so stupid stuff happened, right?
Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
but the biggest one for me was just literally the week before we adopted our 7-year-old. And this was an in-family adoption where it was the son of a cousin of mine who became
Okay.
medically incapable of caring for him.
Oh.
So it was just like weeks later, I have a kid. It wasn't try with your wife for a year and then have 9 months to get ready. It
Right.
was go time.
Hmm.
And the weekend before he came to join us, I was doing some martial arts training and realized how little of that trained me to protect another person, let alone a
Hmm.
small, helpless 7-year-old standing behind me.
Right.
And that kind of realization of how much of what I'd learned wasn't going to help me with what's going to be the biggest responsibility of our lives, which is protecting our
Hmm.
children.
Right.
And so, because I had good coaches who taught me that if you find something out that you don't know, you go find the person who knows it, I started talking to experts and developing that portfolio of information. And that's kind of
Right.
how it started. So, fortunately, I wasn't victimized in any big way, but I
Amazing.
saw the situation coming and saw the weaknesses in my own preparation and filled those holes.
Hmm. Oh man. So first of all, I want
Yeah.
to, just congratulate you, and it's really you have a big heart, to do what you did in terms of, having your child with you. This is amazing. That's always respect. And then also another thing I wanted to ask is about, let's say, is there anything from your training in martial arts, from that experience, has it shaped your parenting style at all? In any way?
Well, sort of. One of the things was the martial arts training itself, I think, is. You said that you'd studied Taekwondo
Right.
and Goju-Ryu. Martial arts does make you more resilient. It does make you more patient. It lets you take your ego and fear and set it aside to do the job. And I think that has made me a better parent in that, when your kid's mouthing off, or like my youngest is now 15, so he's experimenting with raising his voice. And, that when your kid yells at you, you want to yell back, but the discipline and
Right.
the patience that martial arts taught me has me instead just kind of sit down, look him in the eye and say, is that how we talk to each other, buddy?
Uh
Right. And that calmness. And then the other thing I did was not the learning martial arts, but the 10 years I spent teaching kids martial arts
huh.
before I adopted my son gave me kind of a lab to see what works and what doesn't in motivating children,
Uh-huh.
if that makes
Right, right.
sense.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's tempting. Like even with that discipline we have sometimes, it
Yeah.
just we can as humans, if like if somebody is trying to push you and sometimes I think the reality is our families they have like the closest keys to take
Yeah.
you to take you there, right?
Yep.
So it's
Yeah.
not easy.
It's not. And one of the things that I try to remember is,
Mhm,
say you're talking to your teenager about their homework, or you're
mhm,
talking to your 8-year old about, okay, it's time to get off the video game and come to dinner. They don't want to talk about their homework. They don't want to talk about their video games. So if your 15-year-old curses you, you're now talking about the fact that they cursed you. And you're not talking about the homework anymore. It's a very clever strategy that they use. And so being able to keep your cool and just kind of roll past that and stay on target, stay on mission
mhm.
is can be really, really valuable as well.
Man,
Yeah.
what do like
Yeah.
nowadays
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is a little different in terms of our security. Back in
Yeah.
the days, there was no.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends where we grew up, I guess.
Yeah.
The guns and everything else was not available as much. So
Yeah.
now, still we. I don't want to discourage folks. We still have to train and be able
Yeah.
to take care of ourselves and our families. Right? But I think the number one thing should be to avoid the whole situation in as much as we can. Like I remember teaching even back then. Without any issues with the guns and stuff, it was more like the first thing you have to run away. Like you don't have to fight. I
Yeah.
don't know. Like, what do you think about that point, my friend?
I absolutely agree. In fact, the book that came before Safest Family on the Block was a book
Mhm.
about violence prevention, where I
Right.
interviewed 50 people who were, these were
Cool.
police, firefighters, martial artists,
Mhm.
bouncers. There was a spy. Really, really bad, badass guys.
Yeah.
And each of them told a story about a time they avoided violence by running away, or by being funny, or by seeing it coming and crossing the street,
Hmm.
and teaching those things about avoiding violence at all costs.
There you go.
One way I like to put it is, you take Jason Statham or Bruce Lee. They go into a fight. There's 99% likely to be okay.
Hmm.
But if they avoid the fight, they're 100% likely to be okay.
Right.
And especially if you're raising young men, there's this impulse. I think that's part of it is just being male and having the testosterone, and part of it is how cultures teach men to be.
Hmm.
They kind of want to get in the tussle, or they're afraid to not. They're afraid to step away and back down. And so,
Right.
teaching our children, with my kids, I've
Hmm.
raised them up in the martial arts, and teaching them that because of the skills that they have, if they walk away from a schoolyard bully, that's not them being chicken. That's them being merciful because of what would happen to that person if they actually fought, and giving young men especially that confidence to walk away from danger, I think is really important.
Amazing. Thank you, my friend. This is amazing.
Oh,
Um, yeah, because the peer pressure is real.
yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yeah. It can be something. And
yeah.
my kids are both wise asses like their old man, so sometimes their mouths get them in a little bit more trouble than they'd like.
Hmm.
But you can figure out how to get out of the violence, because nothing good comes out of violence.
Now, in terms of families
Hmm.
nowadays, what is
Hmm.
the most overlooked dangers you see in families today? that every
So
parent should know?
so cyberbullying is a huge issue. I think a
Mm,
lot of us we don't think it's as important as it is because it's just online. It's not real. It's not physical. Nobody's getting punched in the nose. Nobody's having their lunch money stolen. Things like that. The kind of bullying we experienced because it was physical and right there. To a lot of us, I think it feels like more important that cyberbullying is not real bullying. The thing is, though, that when you and I got bullied, we could go home, turn on some music, watch some TV, play some video games, talk to our friends, and not get bullied again until we went to school the next day. We had a break. Whereas cyberbullying is 24/7. If you're on your phone and they're bullying you, they're still bullying you. There's science coming in now about how much it impacts diet, how much it impacts grades, depression, anxiety, suicide. It is very bad. And so I think treating it as seriously or more seriously than we would treat somebody coming to your kid in school and punching them right in the nose, I think is important. And I think some parents don't give it that level of respect because it's not physical, and other parents don't address it seriously because we have no idea where to start. Some screen name nobody knows comes in and starts harassing their kid. They don't know where to start. And there are ways to address it, and I think it's more important. So that's one of the two big ones.
mm,
Yeah.
wow. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know where to start. For instance, for
Yeah.
families that are going through that, is there like a resources you want them to, or maybe we can,
Yeah.
because I was gonna try to
Mm-hmm.
delve further into that. Maybe do you have any
Yeah.
suggestions for people that are going through that?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
With your kid, just have have activities that y'all do together that aren't online. Get them that
Mm,
break. They're going to want to be on the phone and experiencing and being in the middle of that bullying. But if, for example, you have the family tradition of, you know what, we have dinner as a family every night, and all of our phones go in a basket on the kitchen counter, and none of us touch them until dinner's over, an hour and a half, 2 hours later. And that's a break that your kid can have. Going out as a family for ice cream or to a show or to a market just to and leaving their phone at home. Family board game night, anything like that. Just go for a drive with your kid. Anything like that can give them that break. And then on the other side, record everything. Take screenshots. Keep a document where you date, time, screen name, behavior, so that when it escalates to either the school administration or to the local authorities, you have your evidence, you have your pieces of paper that show exactly what's happened. And then definitely involving the authorities. Go to the school first. If the school doesn't take it seriously, go to the school district. If the school district doesn't take it seriously, most forms of bullying are a crime. And go to the local juvenile police and mention, hey, this is a person, this is harassment, this is fraud, this is you want to be a little careful, but if the bullying has to do with somebody got hold of a photo or revealing photo of your teen and sharing it around, that is distribution of child pornography. And although I don't think that a 16-year-old jerk deserves to have their life completely ruined by that, it makes a really good threat to make them stop. So, get your kid offline and then be meticulous and official with the response. I think is the best way to fight cyberbullying.
Amazing. Thank you, my friend. And so like for the other challenges, like how do sometimes when we're trying to make our kids aware and be
Yeah.
prepared, and there's a boundary between us being paranoid and anxious.
Mm-hmm.
How do we make them prepared, but also not make them feel paranoid or anxious? Like everything they will think, oh yeah, this is
Yeah.
bad. Or, what
That's
is
a
that line?
fantastic question. That is one of the best questions. I love this question. And the reason being that the first thing to remember is if you're talking to your child about a risk, about a danger, and they're old enough to understand what you're saying, they've already been exposed to the concept. They've seen a news piece, they've read a newspaper, they've seen a blog, a friend's talked to them about it. If they can understand what you're saying, they've already thought about the thing. And so you have two options. One of them is to not talk to them about it, where they just have to think about this scary thing that exists without knowing that their parents are on the case and taking care of them. Or you can talk to them about it. And then they'll see that, oh, mom and dad who are protecting me against this too. And then the other important thing is when we talk to them about it, that conversation should always include what mom and dad, or mom, or just dad, or dad and dad, or whoever, whatever your family looks like, what the parents are doing, and a specific thing they can do too, whatever it is. If you're talking about, fire safety, right? About, well, there could be a fire. You tell them what they should do in the fire, and you drill them on. Say your job is to get out the window and get across the street to the mailbox on the other side of the street, wherever your family meets. Your first job is to do that. And your second job, you're old enough now to have the responsibility. It's your job to count noses and make sure everybody is there. And, say, is mom there? Is dad there? Is sister there? Is little brother there? It's your job now that you're old enough. That's your responsibility in this emergency. And giving them a responsibility shows them that you trust them,
Hmm.
and shows them that they have power over this frightening thing. So that's my opinion anyway.
Oh, this is great. This is amazing. You handle them. Like you give them that responsibility, and they prepare. Like you make them really prepared in those situations. This is amazing.
Yeah, and I think it does help because then they have something
Yes.
to focus on. And the other thing it does is, for example, if they have a job, if the car breaks down on the side of the road, if they have a job, then you know where they are and what they're doing, and they're not wandering around bored, getting into bigger trouble. So,
True. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you. I think
yeah,
this is great. You know, I know like a lot of times people that are living in buildings, that some buildings will do a good job in preparing them for those fire scenarios. So, but some families, let's say if they're not even exposed to that, and the parents are not making that initiative, guess what? If an
yeah,
emergency happens, we are, they're all screwed because nobody has been teaching them anything about it.
yeah, and those simple preparation things can do so much good. You and I were talking beforehand about how important it is to avoid violence rather than be in violence. And
Right.
the same thing's true of preparing and talking about and making plans for other things. I like to talk about how we can turn a tragedy into an emergency, or an emergency into an inconvenience, just by being a little prepared, having a stocked first aid kit, having your kids know how to know their job in certain situations. Something as simple as, so when you're traveling, right?
Mhm.
What if you're just wandering around, nobody's business? This actually happened to my aunt recently, where her husband, this was in Paris, her husband got on the subway and the doors closed just before she could get on. And he's like, right? But they had a plan. They had already discussed, okay, if we get separated like that, the person who gets left stays put, and the person who went away comes back to where they last saw each other. And with that plan, it's an inconvenience. But without that plan, it's an emergency. And so just those little talks, especially if you're with your kids, can make a huge difference. One really good piece of advice that we've been using is with our kids, and our youngest is 15 now, right? He's not very very young, and our oldest is 25. But the family plan is, if we're out together as a group and we get separated, we meet the last place we ate. And, and it's just really simple. That's the default. We just go back to the last place we ate. And if we haven't eaten yet, we back at the car. But it's just having a simple rule that works every time, so that if having that basic plan and have everybody know the plan.
They're like I think that another situation maybe we can fix it going
Mm-hmm.
forward. I was at there was a big bounce, like this bouncing thing for kids, even adults,
Oh
So
yeah,
yes, I went with the kids for the
mm-hmm.
Father's Day, and
Yeah,
it was so much fun. Actually, I realized how much more exercise I need to do daily because I thought I was fit, but no, this was crazy.
yeah,
But anyway,
yeah.
so
Mm-hmm.
there was a child that was actually did not have his parents. He was crying and he
Mm,
was lost.
yeah.
So we had to call the guys, and they were doing all kinds of stuff almost wrong, like calling out, like, oh yeah, by the way,
Uh,
like if you lost your child, like they're
mhm,
providing the descriptions and all these things. But I think it's best
mhm.
to keep it to do like a test for that parent, make
Yeah.
sure that is the right, you know what I mean? Because somebody
Hmm.
can show up and is the wrong one.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a couple of things you
Yeah.
can do with your family. One of them
Hmm.
is remember to teach your kids. There's this thing about stranger danger, right? That they're not supposed to
Hmm.
talk to strangers. But turns out that that's really bad advice because most people are
Mm.
kind. Most people will take care of children. And also,
Yeah.
if your child gets lost, they have to
Hmm.
find a stranger to help them, right? Because if they because if they can find someone who's not a stranger, they're not lost anymore. So what we do is we teach our kids what kinds of stranger are safe to talk to. And the one that we use is if you can't find your family, find another family. Go look for an adult with children. Because statistically, adults with children around aren't likely to hurt other kids. And then also think about your own self. You're a father, you've got children. If a lost child came to you asking for help, that is now your plan for the day.
Hmm.
Right? You would stop at nothing
Absolutely.
to help this child. And so you just teach your kids if you can't find our family, go find another family, ask them for help. And that immediately puts them in a very likely safe group who will help them, protect them, and get you back together. And then the other thing we can do, and this kind of addresses your thing about a test for parents, about the parent talking to authorities, is before you leave home for the day, you take a picture. Just take a picture on your phone. Because imagine, you're at the bouncy house, you're at the fair, and you've lost your kid, and then you're talking to a security guard. Well, what does he look like? Well, he's about this tall and he's got kind of brownish hair and blue eyes. Well, what was he wearing? I have no idea. He wear it, right? And you're scared. You're kind of panicked. Your brain's not working. Or you can show him a photo, text him that photo, and then he can text that photo to everybody else on the staff. And then also, if you come up and you hear the announcement, there's a 7-year-old knucklehead up here, and can their parents come check him out? You can then show that person the photo of that kid hugging you on your phone as proof that. So yeah, that just little thing of taking that morning snapshot on the way out into the world, it makes a world of difference.
Brother, you shared so many, I mean, very useful information. I appreciate you, my
Yeah.
friend. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, I'm not a smart man, but I listen to smart people and I remember what they told me.
There you go. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Actually, speaking
Yeah.
about that, I'd like to
Yeah.
expand on that.
Yeah.
Your dad or your mentor. Is there anything that
Mhm.
they had taught you about safety that you're still using it today?
Oh, it's so many things. There was my father. There were my martial arts teachers. There are the people who are teaching me. Some of them are
Hmm.
very simple. For example, talking about safety, and we're not talking. Oh, to before I get to that, one of the most
Hmm.
important things is that when we think about safety, we so often think about crime prevention, but that's 5%, 4% of harm that comes to children. Where it's preventing accidents, seeing to mental health, seeing to that kind of safety is much, much, much more common and frequent. Um, and to kind of address that, a really simple one is next time you buy new shoes for your kid and new shoes for yourself, the old pair of shoes goes in the trunk of the car. And that way, if the car breaks down or you get in an accident on the way back from the beach and all you've got is your flip flops on, and you got to walk 3 miles to the service station, right? Or you and your wife are on it's date night, and your wife's wearing high heels, and you're wearing dress shoes that aren't comfortable, and the car breaks down. You can go put on good walking shoes that you've already broken in for the walk. Just a very simple thing that you only have to deal with once every 6 months or every year when you buy a new pair of shoes. Just the old ones go in the trunk, the new ones go on your feet. The ones that were in the trunk go in the trash. And just a very simple little piece of advice that absolutely blew my mind when I heard it, and is just so smart.
Absolutely. Old school is really gold, my friend. You know,
Yeah.
we need to, like we need to talk. I think there's a wisdom, word of wisdom that I heard growing up is about like we should see, we should talk with, sit down with the old folks and ask the
Yeah.
people that knows. So this
Yeah.
is true. The more you speak with folks that have been there before, like if you sit down with your uncle, your grandpa, your dad, you chat with them
Yeah.
about how it was. Ask those questions.
Mhm.
Kids nowadays they don't even ask those questions. They don't have. There's no time
Yeah.
to bond as much, I guess.
Yeah. And one of the things that we notice is you get the family gathering together at a wedding or a family reunion. Often the oldest people there, they're not visiting as much because all the younger people want to talk to each other. And the youngest people there aren't maybe visiting as much. But get those two together and they just have a fine time. We have a tradition. We're fortunate enough that most of our family lives within a mile of our house, and we have family dinner every Sunday and coming in, and great grandma and the great grandkids would get together and talk and give them and they'd have that opportunity to hear that wisdom and get to know each other, and it was a really lovely thing.
Amazing, brother. What tool that every dad should own?
Oh,
It's
flashlight,
like,
absolutely a
oh, there
flashlight.
you go.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm a for a lot of reasons. First of all, flashlights are cheap these days. You
Hmm.
can get a good high lumen flashlight for like $5, and they're useful all the time. you
Right.
know, and
Yeah.
also they're a very good self defense weapon because the
So you
good
can make it
ones
a
they
little bit
make.
longer. Yeah.
They make the little guys. They're made out of aluminum. They're bright enough to blind somebody during daylight hours. They're
Hmm.
You can smack somebody upside the head with them, and
Hmm.
they're legal to carry everywhere, even on airplanes.
Hmm.
And this is an important thing about weapons. We pick up weapons, we think about pepper spray or a gun or whatnot. This is a new
Right.
set of skills you need to learn how to use that. But you know how to do a flashlight. You can do a flashlight. You
Hmm.
can turn a flashlight on and off without thinking about it. So it's part of your reflexes to use a flashlight where using a gun, using a knife, using pepper spray, whatever, is not part of your reflexes. So, yeah.
And
It's a,
you'll be in trouble, crossing international,
yeah.
the borders. They
Hmm.
take that stuff from you. I remember losing
Yeah.
one of my dear knife. Like one of those. It was
Yeah.
this tiny. I, since then I was like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. This
Yeah.
kind of stuff is really good to have, but it's hard to keep it everywhere.
Yeah, it's hard to keep it. It's hard to carry it. And the other thing that's
Hmm.
annoying about knives is, as a dad, especially as a dad with small kids, you're carrying
Hmm.
so much other stuff around all the time. Anything that I'm carrying that's only got one use is kind of lame. So, a flashlight, you can use it to find your car in the dark. You can look under your car when you drop your keys. You can play
Hmm.
flashlight tag with the kids. You can do all kinds of things with it besides self defense. Because, again, self defense is going to come up so rarely.
Hmm. Yeah, me, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
like, whether it's picnic or camping, the
Yeah.
knife still comes handy, like,
Hmm.
thankfully we have those thing where you have the
Yeah.
home stuff, your tool, whatever. But back in the days, if you don't have it, it's still good because you got it with you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Always take a pocket
interesting.
knife. All
Hmm.
pocket knife is good, but if I have to choose between a pocket knife and a flashlight, I usually do a flashlight because they're going to take that pocket knife away if you try to get on a plane or cross a border. Yeah.
My friend,
Besides, everybody
awesome.
else is carrying knives all the time anyway. You
Right.
can borrow them.
Oh yeah, there you go. And my friend,
Yeah.
what about what is the best safety book or movie
The very best
that you
safety book
recommend?
is
Hmm. Go
Safest
for it.
Family
Go
on
for
the
it.
Block by Jason Brick. But
Yes, my friend.
besides that one, the classic book is called Protecting the Gift by Gavin DeBecker. Gavin DeBecker is the founder of the most prestigious bodyguard service in the United States, and he wrote a book for parents about protecting their children, and it's absolutely astonishingly good. Besides that one, there's a book called Sharp Women by Kelly Sayre, which is very specifically about how to raise your daughter or your niece or what have you to be aware of and to not get into an abusive relationship. So if you're raising a daughter, I recommend that book absolutely. Uh, Rory Miller has written several books. I think Meditations on Violence is probably the best one for beginners, and it's about self-defense from crime. And other than that, yeah, if you read those four books, you're going to have a really good start.
Thank you. Thank you. That's
Yeah,
that's amazing. We appreciate that recommendation, my friend.
yeah.
Um, so what is scarier, a toddler tantrum or a home break-in?
Oh lordy. So toddler tantrum is much more likely to happen. You know, home invasion, of course, is terrifying. Because they
Right.
come in and then they have you and your family in private. That's why in our home invasion plan is identical to our fire plan. Someone kicks in the door, we're all out the windows and across the street. We're not even messing with that. And not to brag on myself, but I am a very accomplished violence professional, and I'm still leaving because there's nothing in my house that's worth risking that. So a home invasion is really dangerous, but it's also very very rare. A toddler tantrum is an enormous pain in my ass, and it happens. We've all experienced that. I actually interviewed a woman very recently who had a very interesting point about toddler tantrums. That a lot of the training we get about dealing with a toddler is understanding that their brain is not fully developed, right? That they don't have those higher order thinking skills. They're not capable of being patient. They're not capable of emotional regulation because they're 3, right? But this one pointed out that when we get stressed out and we get annoyed, the hormones that go through our bodies, those fight flight hormones that we get, they make us less able to regulate our emotions and make us less mature and make us less capable of doing things in the moment. So we need to be paying attention to ourselves as well, not just our toddlers when they throw those tantrums. I thought it was fascinating. I'm going to have to think about that because I think she's dead on, and it wasn't something I'd ever thought of before.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
yeah. Wow. Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's powerful. So,
Yeah.
boss, thank you
Mm-hmm.
so much. I know we can go on and on and on
Yeah.
as parents,
Yeah.
and we love
Yeah.
everything that we're talking about. This is a great topic. Um,
Yeah.
but I think there's so many nuggets here that people need to
Yeah.
remember. Like, that safety is
Mm.
is really a skill. It's not paranoia.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
I like how you say that. That it's a skill that we can develop like any other skill.
hmm
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Mm.
I think you've shared so many great things in terms of, let's say, for instance, how with from home invasion to fire
Mm.
safety, all those great things that people actually sometimes we don't even think about it. So people,
Yeah.
as parents, we need to take time and explore that and share with our kids so that we are all
Yeah.
like on the same page. You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely agree.
amazing, amazing, my
Oh.
friend. Thanks so much. And how can folks find you, my friend?
So you can find me on my website, safestfamilyontheblock.org. You can email me
hmm
if you have questions. I love to talk about this stuff, and that's brick.jason@gmail.com. And then also you can find me on Facebook. There's several, I think 5 or 6 Jason Bricks on Facebook, but I'm the one on there who's talking about family safety, martial arts, and heavy metal. Um,
hmm
so you'll be able to track me down.
There you go. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. So, guys, please, give a follow to my friend. And if you found some value from this conversation, uh, please do your family a favor and share this with another parent who wants to protect their, what matters most, which is us as family and our legacy. So thank you, my friend, and
Thank you.
please, and like I recommend folks to like join Jason, join me as well. In our communities, because we start this community so we can better each other as parents, as families. So please do that. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, boss. All right, so that was
Outstanding.